Well, I am incredibly excited to be here today for several reasons. One, I'm a huge believer in the study of leadership, and I believe every one of us brings some element of leadership into your world, whether it's your family, your community. And when Kelly and Edna called me about a leadership talk, I said, wait, I can do one better. Let's broaden this topic of leadership across the ocean. It just so happens that I have two of my Maasai Kenyan colleagues here with me during this time to help raise some funds for a school that we're building. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about around the dinner table is, what does it mean to be a leader of a nomadic tribe that is 7,000 people big? And when you're challenged with the very basics of just health, food, sanitation. So as we had the conversation about what today could look like, we decided to merge the two worlds and have a conversation around leadership values that we probably all have some connection to. So the way I would like to conduct today is I'm going to give you a brief overview. I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to tell you this much about Asante Africa, and then we're going to bring our guests up, and you just be prepared to be incredibly entertained and enjoy the morning. Cool? Everybody good? Okay, let me go over here. Let me grab my PowerPoint clicker. So the word Asante means mutual thanks. And it was a very deliberate name when we chose to name this not-for-profit, because it's about partnerships and it's about we're getting as much out of this relationship as we're giving. And so Asante, and you'll hear the word Asante a lot in our conversation because it's commonly used in day-to-day language. But more importantly, the way you say hello in Swahili is jumbo. So, jumbo. Okay. Oh, I forgot to tell you, it's a Swahili lesson too. Let's just pause for a moment and talk about leadership, because every one of you are a leader, and not just, sometimes we get the conversation of leadership and management confused. And every one of you, how many of you have children? Okay. How many of you are interactive in your church or the community in some way? So every one of you, through those roles, how many of you are married, have partners, spouses? Yeah, that's a little harder to do the leadership thing there, right? Okay. So from a leadership perspective, I'm going to share a definition with you that I'd like to work from today. And when we talk about a leadership role, I'm actually referring to leadership from the perspective of, as a leader in the community, in the public arena, in process. How many times should we be asking, now, why do we do that? And then from a peer level, quite often it's influencing and guiding without any direct authority. And many times, sometimes, if we're lucky, we do have hierarchical power. And how many of you would like to spend more of your energy training your boss or your boss's boss? I have several employees. I'm a vice president at Philips Healthcare, and I actually am in the nuclear medicine business. I lead an organization that we design Sept cameras, single photon emission CT cameras, for the hospital arena. And down in Silicon Valley, we spend a lot of our efforts doing engineering, physics, science, image processing, a lot of what many of you do here. And my engineers and team members are constantly trying to lead me or guide me in directions of which they think we should be going. So today, and one of the definitions that I live by is that in many cases, a leader doesn't mean having all the answers. Being a good leader means being able to be an agent of adjustment. And the way I describe this, at least in my own world, is I know I need to be over there, but there are days that I have a lot of rocks in my road, and it's a navigation of around those rocks. In some cases, you got to go through those rocks. And when you hit a brick wall, sometimes you have to figure out how to get through that brick wall. But that's the definition that I tend to work from a leadership perspective. So leadership is not so much of a management tactic or a task, but it is an art of mobilizing others to want to strive for shared aspirations. And sometimes that striving is painful, whether it's a critical experiment that you're conducting, whether it's quarter-end closing that you're trying to accomplish, whether it's trying to figure out how to get a water well put into your village. But it's trying to rally people around you to drive toward that shared aspiration. So here's where I want to pause and bring this home toward you. When you think about a charismatic leader or someone that has touched you in some way, what I'd really like you to do, if you have a pen, I'd like you to write down on a piece of paper, what are the 3 leadership values that you hold dear to yourself? Okay? Because we're going to bring that around. We're going to bring that back toward the end after we have our guests. Okay? If you don't have a pen, lock them into your brain. Okay? So 3 values that you guide your life by, that you guide your family by, that you believe strongly help you develop that line in the sand of what you will or won't do. Those are the guiding values that I'm looking for. Okay? So while you're writing that down, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Asante Africa. How many of you have ever been to Africa? Oh, great. Come on in. Come on. So this organization started because my husband and I went and climbed Kilimanjaro. And we're adventure geeks, and we take time off. And of course, I'm a big photographer, and I said, if we're going to climb a mountain, we're also going to go photograph some animals. While I was in Africa, I met this one woman trying to build a nursery school. And my husband and I came away thinking we were also going to sponsor a child to go to school, because although school sometimes is called free, you can't go to school without a uniform, you can't go to school without the paper and pencil. So we had decided, yes, when we come home, we're going to sponsor a child. Okay, so I had 2 tasks in my brain that I thought I was doing while I was doing my vice president job. One, I was trying to figure out how to get money into Tanzania to build a nursery school. And 2, I was trying to figure out how to get money to one child in Kenya. And that's how Hellen comes into my life. Hellen came into my life because she was the headmaster of the school where the girl went to school. There was another woman in my life in Tanzania who was building the nursery school. I honestly thought I would write a check. The trick became I wanted all my money, not 60%, to go to those projects. And I wanted my tax write-off, of course. And at the end of the day, as I began to look for organizations that were doing work in these countries, my minister at my church just said, Erna, fill out the paperwork. Little did I know, that was actually the beginning of Asante Africa. And one of the things that's very important is what's the philosophy of our organization? Because it is very different than some of the other not-for-profits that are out there. We believe that our organization is around quality education for children. And I am a fanatical believer, because I was a child of growing up in a pretty impoverished home, that every child deserves the possibility of education, regardless of the latitude or longitude of where they're born. So that's just Erna's driving passion around why this not-for-profit exists. I also believe that it's not my place or our place to go into another culture and dictate solutions. It's much better to find visionaries within those cultures and help fuel, through our resources, help fuel their vision. And in some cases, it's to team and to strategize about what those visions could be based on our experiences. So it's to help them be stronger. And this is a very important one. You'll hear Hellen talk about my mother used to say, God gave you 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth, and use them that way. So we work hard to try to listen more than we talk. And as I had mentioned, just to be the resource for our partners in country. So there are 3 dimensions to our world. One is around giving sponsorship, gift of education to children. And these are quite a few of the children that are running across the playground that we're currently sponsoring in Kenya, and we're in both countries. And this is Hellen in the middle with the headmaster at the school, and these are all Maasai girls who are going to school. We sponsor girls and boys. The next dimension is to just create a healthier place to be. And I have to tell you, 2008, I will tell you, is the year of the toilet. We have built more toilets this year across our school compounds because many not-for-profits will fund a classroom, but then when you have 800 children lined up to use 4 toilets, it gets to be a little bit of a problem. So we've actually gone in, this year we've built quite a few classrooms, dormitory, and toilets. And this is the first nursery school that we finished. This was the beginning of Asante. And these are the toilets that we've just finished at a school in Tanzania. But healthier place is food, water, toilets, it's the whole gamut. How do we help these children be in a healthy space so they can think and learn? And the reason that our guests are actually here in the U.S. is to help raise funds for this school that we're building in their Maasai community. This is a story that we would have to probably have over beer at some point, but we're actually in a partnership with the Polish Foreign Ministry to build this school. And the challenge is the Polish money runs out at the end of December, so we have to get this school built in the next 4 months. So that's what's driving our fundraising at this point. The other element to why we exist is that it's not enough to sponsor the children. One teacher can touch 100 lives. And we are big believers in that if you can help the teachers just be better teachers, the children have a higher likelihood of getting to their dreams and their future. So the very first trip, this is actually Hellen's school, and we took Ziploc bags of, I think I took 600 pounds of school supplies the first trip in duffel bags. And then most recently, we have just purchased about $5,000 worth of textbooks for a middle school. So those are the dimensions to what Asante Africa is about. So the reason we're really here is to go back to that leadership value discussion. And I have 2 amazing people in our lives right now in the world, in the Kenyan world. Sabore is an elder. He is actually one of the first children in the entire community to be sponsored to go to school. He was 1 out of 4,000 people in the village to attend school. In Kenya, the favored children are kept home to tend to the animals, and the child, you know, they'll sacrifice 1 kid to go to school to sort of satisfy the rules. And fortunately, as a result of that, his education has helped him grow into being one of the senior leaders. And then Hellen has been a headmaster. She is a teacher by day with 100 children in first grade, and then she's also a very big advocate for child education. So with that, I'm going to go with the B key. I'm going to ask them to join me up here, and we're going to go into more of an interview mode to just have a conversation. And I will also ask that if any of you have questions while we're talking, feel free to interject. Feel free to participate as a part of the conversation. And we're doing something about mics. Sure. And so do you need a mic on both of them, or which one? Okay. Sure. Why don't you come on up? We'll get you seated. Okay, so Sabore, Oyie. Okay. Okay, I gotta get my magic questions here. So I think that if they're gonna mic her, then I'm gonna give you this. Test. So that's you. And I bet if you sweet talk, they may even do some singing and dancing toward the end, but we won't call it entertainment. Okay, so why don't we just have a seat?
With the house, the microphones. Have a microphone, let me go to this woman's camera. There you go. Thank you. You'll need that as well. Thank you.
Okay. So why don't we start with Sabore? Why don't you just spend 5 minutes, tell the audience a little bit about what your life has been like, a little bit about the Maasai culture from the male perspective, and a little bit about your childhood. Maybe think about the ages of 3, 10, 16. What were you doing at those points? And then the one question that is always intriguing is if you woke up in Majimoto today, what would you be doing? What does your typical day look like? So we'll give each of our guests a couple of minutes to just get you grounded into what their world looks like, and then we'll move into the leadership piece.
I think I actually have to stand because, and most of the time at home, that when we have a meeting, the audience always sit down and the person speaking stands. So my name's Sabore Oyie, and I am an advisor to the elders. They picked me when I was a warrior. And when I was a young boy, my life was just like an ordinary boy, going out, looking after the animals, the sheep and the goats when I was a boy. And those are the things that you have to learn because it's part of the respect that you start learning it when you're a young boy. But between the age of 4 to 6, 7, around there, I was at home. I didn't attend school yet. So I was going out with the cows and the sheep, looking after them and protecting them, learn how to protect them from the wild animals because we have a lot of wild animals around us. So I had to learn how to protect them. And then I went to school when I was about, because I actually don't know how old I am. I don't have a birthday because we don't keep the records. You are only told that you were born when there was an elephant rioting around, or when there was a drought, or when there was a fight. That's when you can tell when you're born. But they don't actually know which year was done. And there is no any record that is written record that can remind you of that. So I went to school, I think I was about 10 or, yeah, around 10. 10, 8, in between there. And I was walking 8 kilometers from my village to school, which was a long distance. And I was the only kid going to school out of 3,000 to 4,000 people of my village. The rest just came. I was the first person to finish high school. I'm very proud of that. I was the first person to finish high school in my village. And then when I was in primary school, was 8 years in primary school, I had to wear my traditional clothes for like 3 years in school, going out with them. And I had to buy a uniform later. But I only have, I had like one book with a pencil, and that is what I can use for 7 subjects. She knows because she teaches 7 subjects. But now they have reduced into 5 subjects. But during my time, I had about 7 subjects. And I only had a book when it's over, and then I have to get another one. So it was really a bit hard for me. And then I went to high school. And from there, I got a sponsor from the United States who paid for my school fees. This guy was just around the village, treating the Maasai cattle from the diseases. So he was just around. So we get to know each other because I was the only kid in the village going to school. So he was very much interested in knowing why is it the only me going to school in the whole village. So he get to sponsor my high school. But I disappoint him, let me say, for sometimes, because we have like warriors. We have to go to be a warrior and train to be an elder in the village. So I ran out of school when I was in 9th grade. That's what you call here, because we call them Form 1. Form 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I ran out from Form 1, went out in the bush being a warrior for about 2 years, killed some lions, get to be an elder, get trained to be an advisor to the elder because they picked me to my knowledge because I have an education knowledge and a village knowledge. So they picked me right from there. They trained me a lot of things and to be a leader. So I went back to school, finished my high school, and I actually think that my community needs a lot of education. So I decided to work on the education part to my communities and to the future of the Maasai people and the future of my country. Because we actually need a voice in the government. We need a better life. We need to be educated. We need to be like you people. We need to be like anybody else in the world, and we need to have a lot of information. That is how I went through my life. And I'm glad that I'm doing something to help my community through a hand of Asante Africa Foundation and some friends.
So just out of curiosity, how many siblings are in your family? How many mothers did your father have? Tell them a little bit about that.
My father is married to 2 wives. We are polygamists. And we are 16 children in my family. And dad and 2 moms and 1 dad, so it's about 19 of us in the whole family. And I'm the firstborn of the 16 children. So the youngest one is about, maybe almost 2 years. So I'm the big boss now in the family. I'm following my dad.
But he's not married yet. We're looking. No, just kidding.
I actually want to work for the community, and I want to set an example for them to follow suit.
Great.
So I'm glad we have a lot of kids going to school now, but walking long distance. They still walk like 7-8 kilometers to school. No.
Great. So why don't we give Hellen a moment, and then we'll kick into the leadership element.
Thank you.
So Hellen, why don't you just share with them from the woman's perspective just what day-to-day life would look like and a little bit about your upbringing. It's quite different.
Okay, jambo everybody.
You want to stand or you want to sit? Your choice.
You can stand. As you have heard, my name's Hellen Nkuraiya, and I'm a primary school teacher. And being a leader in my community, being a woman leader in my community is very difficult. So I've faced a lot of challenges to be where I am. To start with my life, how I grew up. I grew up in a Maasai village, whereby my father was a polygamist with the 3 wives, and my mother was the firstborn. And I have 5 sisters and 8 brothers. And I grew up fetching water, going to look after the goats when I was young. And one day, a Catholic nun came to our village, and she took me and my elder sister and some other girls and boys to school. And when I was at the age of I can't remember the age, but when I was in primary 4, grade 4, my father drove me out of school, and he decided to marry me to a man who was about 70 years old, 60 to 70 years old, in exchange of cows. And I dropped out of school, and this nun kept following me, and she came and went to the head teacher, and she brought me back to school. And she continued paying my school fees until I completed grade 8, and I passed my exam, and I was admitted to go to high school. And this nun, she didn't follow me again when I finished my grade 8. And this time my father took advantage on me again. She wanted to marry me again this time because my mother didn't have school money to pay for my school fees. And this time he decided to marry me as the second time. And I learned, and I went and stayed with my aunt, who took me to school, to high school, and she didn't have money to pay for my fees. And I remember I met one friend in school, and she advised me that we should be going to bathe in the bathroom last so that we can collect the leftovers of the soap, because I didn't have personal money to buy the soaps and other things. And one day, our class prefect went and reported me that I'm always late in bathing. And I was to be sent home, and I had to tell the truth to the principal. And when I told her the reason why I go to bathe last, she sympathized with me. And she decided to be buying for me the personal effect like soap, pads, and what have you. And she got a bursary for me from the government. And she paid my school fees until I completed high school. And then after there, I went to Teachers Training College for 2 years. And I got a bursary again from Narok County Council, who paid for my college fee. And I got employment from the government as a primary school teacher. And from there, I was employed by the government as a primary school teacher. And I worked for 12 years, seeing how girls dropped out of school and they are married off at a very tender age. And it is this time I decided to get in and fight for their rights. And I started fighting for girl child education. And it is this time I met with Erna. Somebody introduced me to Erna. He came to our school and he met some parents fighting with me because I had rescued a 9-year-old girl from being married off in exchange of cows. And he sympathized with me and he introduced me to Erna. And since that time, Asante Africa have sponsored now that 9 girls. And I thank Asante Africa for making my dream come true.
Good. Okay. Here, you'll hold this. Okay, so here's the first question for both of you to just think about. You're both leaders in your community in different ways. What are the biggest challenges that you believe are in front of you as leaders in your community, both the Maasai, but also broader than just the Maasai tribe? One of the things that I want us to focus on is Maasai tribe, the world of Kenya, and then also just global. So we'll move that direction. So in your world, what are some of the bigger challenges that you're working to help influence and make changes around? And either one of you can respond.
We have a lot of challenges facing us in the, especially let me talk of the Maasai community that I'm actually there day and night being with them, and the challenges that I'm going through as a leader and as the community in general. We have a lot of challenges of taking girls to schools, boys to school, having good schools, having good water, and good health. Those are the challenges that we really face in our community because most of the people cannot afford to go to hospital. And we have some rivers which is, the water is not clean, it's not clean. But actually because we've been drinking the water since we grew up, we think it's clean, but I don't think it's clean. So we have a lot of challenges facing us, taking children to school, trying to make the Maasai people understand what is the meaning of education and what is the meaning of going to school. So there's a lot of challenges with the community trying to tell them about education.
Maybe you could share the story about the importance of math and money and the story about the gentleman at the bank.
As money is being introduced, and we have like 2 markets, big markets main in our area. And this market is only about cattle and goats and sheep and buying food, which is the maize flour. So you can go to the market, but you don't know how to count the money. You don't know whether this is, we have about some notes. We have 50 shillings note, we have 100 shillings note, we have 200 shillings note, 500 shillings note, and 1,000 shilling note. So it's very hard for some people to differentiate between the notes. And we are doing a business with so many different people from other tribes. And most of the people will take advantage of what we do. For example, we have one of the guys he was growing wheat because we have a few farmers, and he was taking his money to his account. And every time he goes with his money, he takes maybe 100,000, 50,000 from every season of the year because he only do plant one time a year because we only have a very short season rain. A short rain season. So when he does the planting, he takes the money to the account. But the guy who goes there, he doesn't know how to write or read. So he's only going to use his finger to sign. So you only have an ink on your finger, and then you put your finger. That is, I've already signed that, I've deposited my money. But in the paper, the guy will either omit a zero or omit a number there. He has to omit a number. So he's going to deposit 10,000, but 90,000 goes to him. So there's a lot of complaint about that. I deposited this money at this date, but you come with a proof of the paper that it says you deposited 10,000 shillings. You go to the court, you have deposited, this is genuine paper. You have deposited 10,000 shillings. But in your mind, you're very sure that I deposited 100,000. So the 90,000 goes to the other person. So we have a lot of conflict, a lot of misunderstanding with other people, people taking advantage of our people. So that's what we actually want to stop, and that's my vision.
Great. So
That's
Hellen,
my vision.
would you like to add anything around the challenges that in the community you're dealing with?
Yeah, like now, 80% of my tribe, they depend with the tourism. And since we last year when we had the crisis in Kenya, the tourism dropped, and most of people, they were depending with this money from tourism. And now there is a big poverty in my community.
Mm-hmm. So it's so anyway, if you're thinking about going to Kenya on safari, now's a good time, very safe, just putting that out there.
So it's very safe in Kenya, so there is no matata, you can come anytime. Because as what Sabore has said is that the main crisis also came on this issue of most people not having knowledge to know how to read and write. And there are some people who they had sold land. Maybe somebody had come to buy like 2 acres. And you find these people who are learned, they add a zero there, and it becomes like 20 acres. Mm. And when they go to the court and they start to claim, and this man wins who have added the zero because he has a genuine paper, and the illiterate person put the fingerprint that have sold the land. And so they were just keeping quiet, waiting for a day to have revenge. And this is one of the problems we had. So we need education, so that people can know how to read and write. They don't have to sign with their fingerprints.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the challenges today. Now, what I'd like to do is project you 3 years into the future. So we're sitting here 3 years from today, and you have had amazing success in your world. Can you just give us a visual of what success would look like 3 years from today with your challenges, with your world? What would you hope for your community in 3 years?
What I hope for my community in 3 years' time is, according to what I think and to my vision, I will think that if things goes the way that I'm seeing now, because things are not bad at the moment, we're trying to do a lot of things to make sure that our community succeed. So I will think we will have good health, good education. Around 50, 65% or 70% of the kids will get a good education. There will be a better health. I can't say the best, but we will have a better health than what we have now. Mm. And I think we will get good water, because if all the people go to school, and the people who are now in school come out with the same mind that I have, or maybe that Hellen have, or maybe someone else have, of helping the community. And then if we all have one hand and give a hand to each other, we will change the people of our community, and I'm sure that things will change.
Great. What would you like to add, Hellen? What would be your dream from 3 years of today?
Having better houses, for example, built of iron sheets, because the house we built there, we make houses using cow dung and mud. So I think if we have houses built with the iron sheet.
And why is that important? Why is having a house that doesn't leak important for your community?
Because, for example, if I talk on the side of the children in school, when we give them homework to go and do at home, when it is raining, the houses leak, and the book are rained on, and they cannot do the homework.
So it just creates more stress in the life.
Yes.
Now, we've talked a little bit about change, but I think it's very important, though, also to talk about what you would like to stay the same within 3 years. What sort of traditions and cultures would you like to make sure is staying ingrained?
To add on actually what Hellen has said about the houses and leaking, I have an experience because I've been to school most of the time. If it rains, I didn't get the rain myself. I didn't go out for the rain. But I go to school when I have side of my clothes is wet, just because of the leaking. And my book is yellow or any other color because of we make the fire inside the house, so the smoke is over there, right on top. So when it rains, it's not the real water that comes down. It's the liquid of the smoke, and it turns yellow. It turns the paper yellow. So makes my books yellow. So to add on, what would you like to stay the same? We actually have a lot of things that we want to have, and we want some that we don't need. We need to have our culture because we think our culture is very important. And I believe my culture is really important. I don't want to lose my culture. Never. To give you an example, I went to powwow when I was here. This is my second time and I went to powwow in Stanford University.
So powwow is the Native American celebration that's held at Stanford annually. And he had the opportunity to go to that. I
had an opportunity to go there. So some guys were asking me, are you coming to dance with us? Are you dressing for the festival? I told them, no, this is what I dress every day. This is my daily life. I'm like this all the time. So I can tell that they really want to go back to their culture and they really want to have their culture back. But this is what I don't want to experience in future, and this is what I don't want my children or anybody else in future to experience, losing their culture and losing all the tradition. So the biggest thing that I want to keep is tradition. And also the respect, the way we respect elders and the way the elders respect us and the way we respect children. We want to keep respect for our culture. And we also want to keep the connection that we have with our families. Because I can see it's very different here. People are, you see your dad is living in California and maybe all the children are living in New York or maybe another city. And in most cases, we go like extended families. We live with cousins, far cousin, grandmoms, we all stay together, and we have a very, very strong connection. We help each other around. So that is what I really want. Those are the things that I want to keep in my culture.
Hellen, what about you? Is there anything you'd add?
Yeah, I would like to talk on the side of the girls, these girls we are taking to boarding school. We would like them, when they come back, they retain the culture and they live in the village, not to go and change their life and be westernized.
I think that it's very interesting because in the Maasai culture, it's typically women do not own cows or goats or have their own money. And Hellen is quite the entrepreneur, and I think it would be rather humorous for her to tell you about her latest money-making venture. She has facilitated a village of widowed mothers who are single-parent moms, basically. And she came up with a very clever idea on how to raise money. Why don't you just, we'll keep going, but I just think it would be very interesting for them to hear about your solar project.
Okay, how I started my small project.
Why don't you stand up so they can hear you better.
Okay. how I came up with this project of the widows is that, as Sabore said, that in my community, men are polygamists. They marry as many wives as they can. And you find a man who is 90 years old still marrying a girl who is 13 years old or 14. And this man, when he was 18 years old, he married a girl who was 13 years old. As he grew up. When he was 20, he keeps on marrying. When he's 40, he keeps on marrying a young girl. So when he's 70 years old, the first wife he married is around maybe 70 years old. And this wife has big sons. And the lifespan of this man who is 90 years old is short, and he keeps on marrying a girl who is 14 years or 13 years old. So his lifespan is very short. He dies and leaves behind like 10 widows, 5 widows. And then in my community, because we are very few ladies who are educated, and in my village, in my class, I'm the only one who is educated there. They think I'm a millionaire because I'm a teacher. They think I'm earning a lot of money. And so these ladies, they kept coming to my door, especially the widows. And I had to come up with an idea of empowering them. At least somebody to get, even if it's $50 a day, which belongs to her, rather than coming to my door today and then they don't get anything from me, because being a teacher in Kenya, we don't earn a lot of money, and I'm a primary school teacher. And I came up with this business of solar charging, because where we live with wild animals, so we cannot do farming. And I had to figure out how I can also get money from men so that I can feed these widows, because in our society there, all men have cell phones, and the women, I'm the only one who has a cell phone. And so I decided.
And there's no electricity at all in the village.
Yeah, and these men who have cell phones, they walk 43 kilometers to Narok town to charge the phones. So I bought a solar panel, batteries, and inverter, everything, and I started a small business for these ladies so that they can get something to feed themselves. And there is a girl.
I have the picture.
The youngest.
So this is the solar panel that she bought that they've put on their mud huts with the mamas.
Yeah, and this money I got from a lady who was also told about my story, and she asked me what she can help me. And I told her if she can buy for us the solar panel so that we can start. This is the only business we could do there. And there is one lady who is the youngest widow in the village. She was in school, and she dropped out of school when she was in grade 6. And now at least she knows how to read and write, and now she's the one who is in charge of the charging phones.
And how much do you charge for them to charge their cell phones?
Yeah, I think. So, and now we charge 20 shillings per phone. And this money, this lady, she keeps, and we have the treasurer who keeps the money. And every Friday they share the money and they buy food for themselves. And then this year on June, I met another lady from Pennsylvania, the same lady who had donated for us the solar. And she asked me what we can do, and I told her we can expand our solar charging to cyber cafe. And
but nobody knows what a computer is, but they have a cyber cafe.
And she was saying, what, a cyber cafe in a Maasai village? I said, yes, because there is a high school there, and there is teachers, and they can come there. They can read their emails, and then we charge them. And we started the cyber cafe, and it is doing very well.
So it's priceless. It's great. The really funny story, though, about the phones is that the men are the ones with the mobile phones. And you go into this mama's village, and there are men lined up to get their mobile phones charged. But it only works when the sun's out and the solar panel is dumping electricity into the car battery. So people are lined up waiting to get their mobile phones charged.
How did they charge them before?
They walked. They walked many kilometers
43 kilometers
to town.
To town.
If your phone is off charge, you have to wait until the market day some kilometers to get it charged.
So when we started the business, of course, they were happy.
So let's bring this now back to our values, our guiding principles and the values that help you be a good leader in your community. What are the values that you hold dear to you? And since you're standing, Hellen, why don't we share? Do you need your notes? That just sort of help you with your day-to-day. What are the things that help you make your decisions?
Okay. One, I follow my heart, because in my tribe, if you are not strong enough, nothing will happen. Because I remember one day I called a meeting for the parents and for the stakeholder of the school, and the men, they want me to sit on the left side, and then they want to sit on the right side, and I said no, I had to follow my heart. And also respect also matters a lot.
Mm-hmm. And Sabore, what would you add? What would be the values that help guide you as a leader, as an elder in the community?
My values, as what I'm doing is very critical to the community of the Maasai, like the issues that I'm going to give the people. The very important thing that I really want to have is try to show them the right way of performing the ceremonies, that because they depend on me now. If all the elders are not there, it's me to show them the right way. So that is the first thing that I have to value being an elder of the Maasai people. I have to show them the right way on how to perform the ceremony. And also the respect. Respect is really important, because I always tell them to have the respect, because I respect my senior. I have a chief who is senior than me, and I am second to him, so I really respect him. So I want the people to follow the suit of the respect, because respect is really important, and it can take you a distance according to the way you behave with people.
So I ask you to write down your 3 values or your 3 guiding principles. And the question that I would ask is, how similar are what you wrote down to what you've just heard from a values perspective? Respect, wanting your family to be better off tomorrow than today, following your dream. What were a couple of the others? Pursuing the knowledge that will help you be better. Did anybody have any of those on there? Integrity, those elements? Our world is very small. And I think the thing that I learned is the more different we might appear, we're actually more similar than we could ever imagine. I think would you be interested in listening to these guys sing? Okay. So before we do that, it's always very important, because our worlds are becoming smaller all the time. And when I think about what are we doing across the ocean to help each other be more successful, the final question that I would ask both of you is, there are folks in this room because they're very interested about your world. What would you ask them to think about as they go back into their day jobs about what could help you be a leader in your vision and in your community?
What I can ask you is just 2 simple things. As you go out, go to your office, you have a daily life, you think every day, and maybe you have a vision in your life. Think of somewhere else in the world. There is a lot of people outside there who are not fortunate like you, because here I don't say that you're so special. We are all the same, but maybe you'll be fortunate than we are. So I will ask you to think about the rest of the world and think of a way that you can make a better life somewhere else out of America. Doesn't matter whether you go to India, go to anywhere else in the world, but think of a life. Think of someone behind the curtain. Think of someone that you can help in future, and to have a bright future and to have a good life in future. That's what I can ask you guys to think about.
Hellen, what about you?
I think if you can help us on the side of resources, like maybe providing computers to our children there, because you find even the teachers, they are computer illiterate. And also maybe if we can have an exchange program for our students and your students, and maybe they can learn more from here, and the American kids can learn also about African. And also maybe if we can offer scholarship to the bright girls, and they can get more and more knowledge, because we have also bright girls in my society, but they are not given that chance to get education. They are denied. They are drop out of school, and they become young mamas at the age of 13 years.
Good, very nice. So, yes, absolutely.
I really admire and respect what you're doing, and I'm really happy to hear you. And my question is, and I like what you said about the culture and keeping the culture. So I'm curious about the religious school, because a lot of what I've heard, I mean, even the classic book, Things Fall Apart, it wasn't exactly a friendly interaction of the religious, the church who came in to educate the local people. And the Native Americans didn't experience didn't have a very good experience with their boarding schools, you know, where they tried to take the culture out of the children. So
So your question is what is the question?
well, the question is, how is that working with the, you know, this religious school, and they're wearing uniforms and they're living out of their home, right? They're not living.
They're living a long way away from their homes, yes.
Out of the subjects that we have in school, we have about 5 subjects. And religion education is one of the subjects, which is there. But we have, because we have Muslims and we have Christianity, they teach that in school. And according to our belief in the Maasai, we have a different belief, but we believe in God. So we have 3 breaks at every year of school, and 3 breaks in the year, in the whole year. We have 3 terms. So we break April, August, and December. So most of the children will go back to the village and practice the Maasai village. It doesn't affect the Maasai culture with education. But because we want them to have the culture and we want them to have education. So during the break, they can go out and practice the cultural way of life.
I would also say the school that we're building within their Maasai community is a non-religious, non-Western school. And Hellen, it will be the principal of that school. And there's a lot, too, trying to blend the education in with the Maasai beliefs, the Maasai community. But it's not just Maasai children going to this school either. You know, it's important that everyone is welcome.
Also, in our syllabus, the one we follow, we have a lesson for tradition and cultures, and also we have in second term we have a music festival competition, whereby each tribe represents their culture and tradition, and we teach this in social studies. So the children also in school, there is one lesson every day. They learn about the culture and how to maintain the culture. And also, like the girls I'm rescuing, I think, Erna, you can show them the rescue center. Okay, these girls, they are in a boarding school, but if you see how I made the rescue center for them, is that when they come back from school, they know that they are coming to the normal Maasai life.
I have to go to your photos.
And they enjoy, and we teach them. And when they are there, also they learn about the culture, everything. So there is no big change as also you can see example with me. I went to school, I have education, but I'm still retaining my culture. Same with the Sabore.
I'm looking for pictures of the rescue center here.
I have a question. If you're nomadic and you're having a school built, a permanent school built,
There it is.
are you not moving very far away from the school, or does the distance increase in certain times of year for the kids to go to school? How does that work?
We have just come to realize that we had a lot of big problems on giving away land. Like during the colonial period, we gave a lot of land to the colonial people, the British. And most of the fertile lands that we've been living was taken. And now it's other tribes that are living there. So we've just come to realize that as being nomad, where we live now, we can only move our cows from one place to another. We move cows and we leave the rest of the families there so that the kids can go to school and so that we can keep the land instead of moving out of the land and other people come and live. So we leave people to remain behind. And we can only move cows. When it rains, we bring them back to the village. So that's how it works now.
So why don't we do this? I will ask Sabore to explain a little bit about the lion ceremony as a warrior. Maybe you can perform the lion song. And then there might be one of the mamas song you could do. And then what we'll do is we'll break, and we'll be up here. I will also just tell you that we are doing a warriors training tomorrow in San Francisco at Grace Cathedral in the afternoon for children, and next weekend in Palo Alto and the weekend after in Pleasanton. And we have all those flyers up here. We're happy to share more information with you. But I think in closing, I'll make sure you have plenty of time to ask questions one-on-one with our guests. But it's very fascinating to listen to their tribal singing. Are you going to try to jump, or are you just going to do you think you can do it on this? Probably. Why don't I'll hold your microphone when you're ready.
We hunt a lot of lion. Being a warrior, it's a very good significant. I mean, it's very important to kill a lion. I killed 2 lions in my process when I was a warrior for 2 years, but I didn't kill it alone. We have to go like a group of 5, 10 sometimes to kill a lion. But it doesn't mean that you have to kill a lion alone. What it means is that when you're the first person to spear the lion, you are the killer of the lion. You get the mane of the lion. The rest of the people will help you kill the lion. And then the second person to spear it again will take the tail. Or the most bravest man to run into the lion when the lion is still alive and hold the tail of the lion, get off his knife and cut it off, will take it. That one is no compromise. Whether there was a second person who has speared the lion or whether there was, you have to take that one because there is no one. I can't just believe a warrior coming to take the tail that I've cut from the lion from my hand. I can't. So it's really, it's hard tackling with the lion. But sometimes the people get injured. Most of the time they break the bones on this neck bone. They have to break their hands. But what we do is we wrap these clothes around one of these. You wrap them around your waist. But when you are a warrior, you don't have a big one. This is big for a warrior. I have just done it like 2 times. It's big for a warrior. You can't wear it when it is that big when you're going to the bush. You wear it very short, the size, and you wrap it around your hand. So when the lion jumps on you, in most cases you try to give the lion the hand so that he can bite where there is around the chuka. So before we go, we have a lion song that we do sing before we go hunting with a lion. And that is what I'm going to show you how it is. Don't be scared. really nice because most of the warriors in the council killing around, they have to do the dancing, they have to sing the song. So we only do it how to. But I'm sorry, it's actually dance with your group. We sing and chanting with a group, so maybe the sound might be. To me, it's weird because I never do it alone. So I can try to. So that is the song that we sing.
Awesome. So would you like to show them the women's version?
Yes. Okay, in our tribe, the women, they sing for men when they have gone for a successful raid, because the Maasai believes they came from heaven with a big skin, and they came on earth with their livestock. That is cow, sheep, and goat. And they believe all cows belong to them. And maybe one time you can see Sabore coming here with a group of warriors coming to take the American cows back to Maasai land. And so, in our culture, when the warrior have a successful raid, we sing for them. And also the women, they have songs they sing thanking God, although in our culture, the Maasais are more of African tradition believers. 5% are Christian, but 95% we are African tradition believer, me being among them. So I'm going to sing for you one song sung by women, thanking God for blessing them with the children and cows and goat and sheep. It goes like this.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules today. I know everybody has a lot of chaos going on in their daily work worlds. And it's just a great honor to be able to be here at Lawrence Berkeley Lab and to share our Kenyan guests with you. I believe that there is going to be food brought up on stage to attract you down here, as well as time with our guests. So thank you for being here. Is there anything we want to say in addition? Okay, going, gone. Thank you.